somebody in pain.
Hey, Ken, is your microphone on?
Mine's on. Do you want? It is now. Thank you.
All right. I'll move to return from exec session.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Gerth?
Yes, if everyone would please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Move to adopt the agenda.
Mr. Gerth,
Oh, sorry.
if I may,
You may.
ask
Sorry.
the board if we could add one late item, and that would be under Township Administration regarding the renewal of the Anderson Senior Center contract.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Move to adopt as modified or presented.
Second. Third.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Gerth?
Yes, first up is a public hearing, case 1-2019, Anderson Buffalo Wings and Rings, 8501 Beachmont Avenue. Paul?
Good evening. This is a request for a zone change on property located at 8501 Beachmont Avenue. The applicant is Buffalo Wings and Rings Real Estate LLC on behalf of TP White & Sons and Feldy Boys LLC, who are the property owners. The location, again, is at 8501 Beachmont Avenue, and there are multiple zonings districts on the property currently: E Retail, E PUD, C Residence, and C PUD Planned Unit Development. The applicant is requesting a zone change to EE, which is Planned Business District, for the purposes of constructing two buildings. The first is a one-story, approximately 2,600 to 4,300 square foot retail building near the front of the property toward Beachmont Avenue. And the second is a two-story building, approximately 20,000 square feet, 20,400 square foot, that would be used as a corporate office building for Buffalo Wings and Rings. And we'll go to the site plan. In addition, a small three-car garage is proposed attached to the building to be used for personal storage and also for personal vehicles. History on the site in question: this was approved, recommended for approval by the Anderson Township Zoning Commission. There were two meetings on this, March the 25th and April the 22nd, in which the Zoning Commission recommended approval with 15 conditions. Prior to that, there was a pre-submittal meeting at the Township in February, and then Hamilton County Regional Planning Commission heard the case at their March meeting. However, due to a lack of 4 affirmative votes, the application was denied. This is the site in question, Beachmont Avenue.
Paul, say that again.
Yes.
Repeat that.
Which, on the Regional Planning
Yeah.
Commission? So at the Regional Planning Commission meeting, the motion was made to approve the zone change, but due to a lack of 4 affirmative votes, the motion was denied. There were, I believe, 2 members that were not present and 1 who voted against the case. The others voted for the case. But because of the members that were in attendance, it took 4 for approval.
Okay.
So this is the site in question, Beachmont Avenue. This is the former Identity Hair Salon, and then this is the second parcel that is currently vacant. This property is being redeveloped as graders. This is Montgomery Cyclery, and then there's a mix of commercial uses on the northern side of the property. This is the Rayborn subdivision, Sunmont Drive, to the south. This is the aerial of the site in question. The topography slopes to the south from Beachmont Avenue. This is the zoning map. Again, the red is some form of retail, either straight E retail or E PUD. The yellow is a single family, either C residence, which allows for 6,000 square foot minimal, and then the C PUD. The reason for the PUD is that the Identity Hair Salon went before our zoning commission for a parking lot expansion, which ultimately they did not construct. They did add a few parking spaces in the front, but they did not implement their plan toward the rear. This is the proposed site plan for the Buffalo Wings and Rings site. Again, the front building has not been, a user has not been identified for that building, so that is a sketch up of what could happen. The building toward the rear of the property, or in the middle of the property, this is the two-story building that would be used for the corporate offices. We'll come back to the site plan. We'll go on. There are the elevation drawings of the site in question, or the building, the office building. No renderings were submitted for the front building. And this is a cross-section to give you an idea of the lay of the site. So this is Beachmont Avenue, and it slopes to the south toward houses on Sunmont. So this is just to give you an idea of a cross-section of the height of the building and how it would compare to a two-story house on Sunmont. And we can come back to that one too. So let me show you the site photos. This is looking east on Beachmont Avenue toward the construction of graders. This is looking in the opposite direction to the west, to the site Montgomery Cyclery, and this is the site in question. This is the former Identity Building. This is looking south toward the rear of the property. Again, this is the property in question as well as the Identity site. The area is wooded toward the southern portion of the site, and then in the wintertime you can see these homes. These are the homes that are on Sunmont. This is just looking at we're standing at the rear of the Identity parking lot looking toward the south. The applicant had done some soil borings, so there was some clearing of the woods to conduct these soil borings. So in reviewing and we'll go back to the site plan so we can talk about the request. In reviewing for a zone change, we look at zoning resolution compliance. So the items that are not in compliance, the applicant is requesting a variance for a side yard setback of the office building in this area here. The applicant's proposing a 10-foot side yard setback where a 35-foot side yard setback is required in the planned business district zoning district. The applicant's requesting a variance for the streetscape area along Beachmont Avenue. A 10-foot wide streetscape area from the right-of-way is required, and the applicant is requesting a 6-foot wide from the additional right-of-way that's required to be dedicated with the zone change. A sidewalk is shown on the plans. The applicant has not requested a variance. The sidewalk is shown at 5 feet, where if it is constructed against the curb, it will need to be a minimum of 7 feet wide. The applicant's requesting a variance for parking. The township zoning resolution has a minimum and a maximum of parking spaces. The applicant has provided 106 parking spaces, where 84 spaces are permitted for both uses. So this is over the 10% optimum. So the applicant is requesting a variance for that. The zoning commission recommended removal of these 12 spaces here to come into compliance, and that would also allow for a greater setback to the residents on Sunmont, and the applicant is requesting reconsideration of that condition. Also the lighting plan that was submitted, a revised lighting plan that is in your packet, is closer to compliance. There are still a few hot spots on this side of the property, so those would need to be brought into compliance if this is approved. With the zone change, we also look at the applicable plans, the adopted plans for the township. So the comprehensive plan, the future land use map, identifies this area for general retail. An office use and a retail use is consistent with that future land use map. The Anderson plan also recommends the following goals, or staff and the zoning commission felt that this application was consistent with the following goals of the Anderson plan. Economic development chapter, as well as the land use and development. As far as the Beachmont plan, the applicant is showing cross access behind the proposed building on the front. This would allow, they're mid-block in between signals, so they're between the Nordyke signal and the 8 Mile signal. However, the Beachmont plan does identify these properties in this section of Beachmont to be connected either through a parking lot connection or a shared or dedicated access way. So the applicant is showing that accommodation in their plan. They have also proposed only one curb cut, whereas previously there was the identity curb cut. There were two parcels, but they still are only identifying one curb cut for this particular piece. The Anderson Trails and Walkway Plan, they are showing a sidewalk connection on Beachmont Avenue, as well as a connection from that sidewalk to the front door of this building, as well as to the front door of the office building. And then our Economic Development Committee has reviewed this application and has recommended approval so long as an appropriate buffer and separation is provided in the back. This has been the original submittal back at our pre-submittal meeting in February. The building was actually shown back here and back in this area, and the parking was in between this building and this building. The applicant originally thought this might be a better placement for the building. They felt that it would help buffer the noise from Beachmont Avenue as well as buffer noise from the parking lot. After that meeting, discussion with the Zoning Commission, and even Regional Planning Commission felt that it may be more appropriate to move the building further north because a parking lot could be screened easier than a two-story building. And that was the other issue. They felt that the two-story building may be out of scale with the two-story residence. The building is slightly taller than a two-story residence. However, they are still proposing to stay under 30 feet. So the plan was revised, resubmitted to the Zoning Commission at their second meeting, and underground detention was placed under the parking lot here, and then there is a detention basin here. This allowed for additional buffering to the residents. The applicant has agreed to a 6-foot mound, which was a condition by the Zoning Commission. The topography map still only shows a 3-foot mound, but that was a condition by the Zoning Commission, and we can go over those conditions. Back to this cross-section profile, just to give you an idea of how this would look both from Beachmont Avenue and from the residents on Sunmont. So the residents on Sunmont, they are in the C zoning district, so a 30-foot rear yard is required. So there is a 30-foot setback to the property line and to a house on Sunmont. The applicant is proposing a 6-foot tall mound with a mixture of evergreen and shade trees. However, on their landscape plan, it does identify ornamental trees as shade trees, so that's a recommendation that those be shade trees and not ornamental trees. This is the detention basin. This would be the parking lot area. So there would be a level of buffering along the mound as well as perimeter landscaping of the parking lot. There was a condition placed by the Zoning Commission specifically to the height of this building. However, the applicant has requested to modify that condition to just a 2-story building, screening the mechanicals on the roof because they have not come up with a final design. They didn't want to be limited to 25 feet, 26 feet, 27 feet, not knowing the exact height of the building. But they are assuring that it would be only 2 stories. And then again, the grade up to Beachmont Avenue. So you can just see how the grade slopes to the rear of the property. So the recommendation from the Zoning Commission as modified, well, this was from Hamilton County Regional Planning. The motion and then modified by the Zoning Commission was approval. The county, the plan complies with the Hamilton County Thoroughfare Plan with the additional right-of-way, and the applicant has shown that on their plan, but they are requesting a reduction of the streetscape buffer to accommodate the extra right-of-way. And reason being, so Graders was not required to dedicate right-of-way because they were not a zone change. They were just a redevelopment of the site. All of the building and the commercial aspect of that was in the retail zone portion. So their building is actually set up pretty closer to the road than what the proposed, what this building would propose to be. So the greater building is now in line with this building, but they were not required to dedicate right-of-way because of the construction. So there will be the appearance of the same amount of green space in this area, even though a majority of that will be right-of-way. They are still providing a 6-foot strip of landscaping. They're meeting the landscaping requirements. It's just not a 10-foot area. The sidewalk will be in the right-of-way, so they will still have a sidewalk, and they will still have 6 foot of a buffer area and even green in between that. So that is one of the requests for the variance for the front portion. Number 2, that a landscape plan be submitted as part of the final development plan. Number 3 is that both buildings shall be of modern design, which is consistent with this neighborhood of Beachmont Avenue and the Beachmont plan. A lighting plan compliant with zoning resolution be submitted with the final development plan. That a vehicular easement area shall be made for cross-access to properties to the east and to the west. That in lieu of a 6-foot privacy fence, a solid screen consisting of evergreens, deciduous trees shall be at the top of the berm. That all signage comply with the zoning resolution. That stop sign be provided at the eastern property line, and this is at the property line with Graders. That driveway from Graders is a one-way in that goes into the rear parking area, so the zoning commission wanted to ensure if there was cross-access, that a stop sign be put in so the cars wouldn't conflict. That a sidewalk be integrated into the site plan connecting the corporate office building in the rear, which they have modified their site plan to achieve. Stacking lanes for the drive-through meet the minimum standards, which they have modified. The landscaping materials, this was a condition of the zoning commission, be 8-foot tall evergreens and 2.5 caliper shade trees and 3-gallon shrubs. So they upped the landscaping requirements for this buffer area. And again, the landscaping on the proposed plan has shown that they have, though, identified ornamental trees instead of shade trees, so that would need to be modified. Number 12, that all HVAC and mechanical units be screened and submitted as part of the final development plan. Number 13, a 6-foot high mound toward the rear of the property. Number 14, the building shall not exceed a maximum of 27 feet. This is one of the conditions the applicant is requesting a modification. And number 15, that the 12 parking spaces to the south be eliminated. The detention basin moved to the north and the buffer area be expanded with additional landscaping. That was a condition by the zoning commission. The applicant has requested that condition be removed. They have stated that this is a corporate headquarters, and they conduct training for their employees for new stores. So at times when training is being conducted, they said that they need that number of parking spaces. So they are requesting to keep the 12 spaces in the rear and that be removed. So those are number 14 and number 15. Those are the items that the applicant's wishing to amend. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
I assume there's no detention on the property now?
Correct.
Okay.
And Graders doesn't have, I mean, just correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember it from memory. They don't have any landscaping up front, right? Because it was just.
They will.
They
So
will.
with the redevelopment, yes,
I
they will.
haven't seen any, but they're going to.
And Graders currently is being constructed in 2 phases, so most likely the landscaping won't go in until the 2nd phase and it's completed.
But along the front of Beachmont, I thought that was pretty darn close to the.
They will. They have proposed street, they're in compliance with our zoning resolution, so street trees and shrubs.
But not as much as this one because it's going to be set back a little bit more.
Actually, no, so I didn't do a very good job explaining that. I apologize.
It looks on the site plan like this one will have a little bit more of landscape buffer between the parking lot and Beachmont Avenue as opposed to Graders.
Graders, this is a drive through here, so Graders landscaping will be just north of that drive. So currently, yeah, it's not shown to line up. So
This will be deeper.
this will be deeper, so this area here is right-of-way that is required to be dedicated with the zone change. So they have moved their landscaping outside that right-of-way. Graders does not have that much
Right.
right-of-way, so their landscaping would actually be up here.
I mean, judging from the site plan, it looks like, I mean, looks like they're setting it up, the retail space up front is going to be, although it's not going to be constructed immediately, right?
And that would be a question for the applicant. I don't think they've finalized on a tenant for that building.
But to me, it looks like it's set up for food, obviously, at some point, but with a drive-through. And this detention, the basin, where, I mean, that is draining into stormwater? Where is that gonna be draining into?
So the natural flow of water from this whole area of Beachmont kind of
Right.
goes through the Rayborn subdivision and continues south. It eventually runs into the creek that runs along 5 Mile.
Right,
I'm sorry, not 5 Mile, Forest.
right.
That ultimately goes down to the river.
Storm drainage there
Mhm.
currently.
Yeah, everything on this Beachmont, or on this side, southern side of Beachmont drains
that way.
south, yes.
I'm
Mhm.
just concerned about the house behind it, that's all. The house is behind it, but that's what I was asking.
So they are required to hold the water, and so
Right.
they have 2 detention systems, one that's above ground and one that is under the parking area here that is
Right.
proposed.
Right.
So they would be required to hold the water and release it at the same rate or slower than what is currently happening.
And design, do we know that what the design is?
We'll let the applicant speak to that.
Anything else? Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing, so have the applicant come up.
Good evening. I'm Tom Davis, Director of Construction with Buffalo Wings and Rings. Paul's given a pretty good history on this. We've been through a lot trying to get this worked out from the back, moving to the front and all that, trying to give the residents what we can give them on this and all this. I would like to address 2 concerns we had in the resolution, item 14 and 15. In talking with my architect, he's saying that 27 feet may be a little difficult to meet with it being 2 stories and screening the mechanical equipment on the roof. We have agreed to put all the mechanical equipment on the roof, not on the ground. So we'll need to screen that. And he's saying 27 feet will be close. We could be 26, we could be 28. He just doesn't know right yet because we don't have the building design at this point. So we're asking for a little relief on that. We will keep it within 2 stories and a screening wall for the mechanical. The other issue is the 12 parking spaces in the back. Unfortunately, I cannot subtract in my mind. So when that came up, I wasn't thinking that we only have 74 parking spaces in the back. If I take 12 away, that only gives me 62. The other 30 are associated more to the front. And right now that we are looking at 20,000 square feet on each floor. We now have about 32 employees, and we're crammed into 10,000 square feet, twice less than that. And we're looking to double size over time. We're looking to probably lease out some of the upper floor. And like Paul was saying, we do have training classes that come in, and we bring in anywhere from 10 to 20 people that train at the office. So at that time, we need more. So right now where we are, we're even short parking where we are now. So we'd like to get that back. We do have the back buffered. There's 75 feet between the property line and the back parking with the 12 spaces in there. That is heavily buffered, as Paul said, with evergreens and deciduous trees to try to protect that. And the other issue was the 10-foot setback on the side setback. We needed to get that to be able to move that building forward is the reason we had to do that. So if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them at this time.
Yeah, it's right there.
Do you guys have any questions?
No, you're proposing in the back a 6-foot berm with the landscaping on top of it on the back side of the detention basin? Is that correct?
Yes, be a 6-foot berm with, I think the resolution indicates we'll put 8-foot trees in there starting out with so that everything is buffered from the beginning, not having to wait till things grow and all that. So we have agreed to that. We do have also the perimeter landscaping next to the parking lot, so that will be double buffered if you want to look at it that way.
And that 6-foot berm would even prevent any excess water from running
properties behind it. if
Yeah,
I'm
we have
understanding
to,
correctly.
we have to take care of all our water. It's
Yeah.
gotta be maintained. We've got underground underground retention, and also this swell there, from talking to my engineer, that's probably gonna be a sanitation type swell to clean with water up and that kind of stuff. It'll be released at a control rate. We can't release it any greater
Greater
than.
than what's existing
Right.
now, but what I'm asking is the way your detention ponds are designed, are you releasing less than than is currently running off of there, or do you know?
Yes, it'll be less than what it is now.
Okay, you don't know how much though?
We've
right?
got to control it and
Okay.
per the county's requirements.
Okay.
So with regard to the two-story request, the 27 feet, I mean, are we talking 32 feet, or are we talking close to 27 feet?
No, I don't, he said we'll be close to 27, but he couldn't give me an
Get
exact
exact.
height.
Okay.
He said it could be 26, he said it could be, 28, like I said, he just didn't know exactly what it'd be right then.
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, this is a public hearing, so anyone that would like to speak on favor or against this proposed development can come up.
My name is Terry McQuarrie, and I am one of the residents that live directly behind. And I'm assuming.
Terry, what's your address? Just for the-
8518 Sunmont Drive. And I'm assuming you received information that we've provided in the past with the pictures of all the water troubles we've had, and this past year that they've been shared with you, that we've provided to the zoning group. So I won't go into all that detail now, but I do want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. And we've, shared all of our concerns at these past hearings. And one of the big problems is with the look and the feel of the natural tree line, and the water is two of our big concerns. Also, we think that the way that they've proposed this, that there will be a lot of noise that we'll have from Beachmont Avenue that we currently don't have, as well as lighting issues. We think that there will be additional water coming back our way. In our yards, we have like rivers coming through them when it rains real hard now, and we think that it'll just erode the land. Additionally, we, prefer to keep the separation between us and Beachmont because we're residents, and it's been a very nice neighborhood to live in. We do understand from the business side what they want to do, and we understand what the zoning commission proposed. However, we would ask that you seriously consider not approving the conditions that they've requested to be changed, with being the height, so that the two-story homes won't see the building if this is approved. And also, we truly ask that those parking spaces be eliminated, that we feel that there'll be a lot of additional heat, that it will really impede upon our lifestyles in the neighborhood. So that's essentially all I have to offer tonight. I thank you again, and really ask if you would seriously consider, from the neighborhood perspective, how such a development will impact all of us.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
I am Linda Goggle. I live at 8500 Sunmont. So I am the home in the cul-de-sac right to behind this Montgomery Cyclery.
Okay.
So I also have a lot of the same concerns. One of mine is that while I know they're only responsible for fixing the water and bringing that to code in their area, I'm right to the side of that, and I don't know what will happen runoff-wise if there's a big berm and then a drop on either side. Will water run off to the side? I don't know what that's going to do to my yard and to the water problems with my yard. I also would very much like to see those 12 parking spaces gone. I'm concerned about I'm happy that it's a business, I'm happy that it's a corporate office, it's a Monday through Friday.
Right.
I get the give and take, but at the same time, they are gonna do training sessions there. They're gonna have a lot of people there certain days of the week. We don't all work all day. You know, some of us are home, that's my backyard. We're in a very congested area. It's not very deep. And, you know, that amount of people coming and going, I don't know what, there's a lot of unknowns. I don't know what the volume of, sounds like there could be a lot of people coming and going out of that area. I know there's things that came up at one of the other meetings. They mentioned the possibility, because I asked, where will those people go? Will they congregate outside? And there was mention of perhaps a patio over the garage where people could go maybe for lunch or to smoke, and I'm thinking that noise is gonna carry big time into our neighborhood. And there's so many unknowns that once you pass the zoning change, what can we do to make sure that they follow the regulations that they have? Once it's zoned business, can't they really, yes, they may follow in the beginning what you say, but can't they then do whatever they want business-wise on that property? And that's something that I don't know, and I'm concerned about. What happens 5 years down the road? What happens if they do lease that? What if they outgrow it? When we built that house back there in '96. We've lived there all this time, and at the time, we chose to stay in Anderson Township. We moved from Asbury. We could have built this exact same house in Claremont County in another Dree subdivision for $30,000 less. And we chose not to do that. We chose to spend the extra money and get a smaller lot to stay in Anderson Township. We knew that was zoned residential behind us. And, it was a mistake on our part. We thought that there was comfort in that we thought the worst that could happen was that somebody would build an access road and there'd be a few homes back there. But never in my wildest dreams did I think that I was gonna have a parking lot and a 2-story building that close to my backyard. So again, I just ask that you consider what the residents say, and I'd be all for building that up on the business part of the property, but just not bringing it so far back. So thank you so much for thinking about all of us as well. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Linda.
Hi, my name's Ken Chow. I live at 8510 Sunmont Drive. My house is where the letter A is.
Okay.
Okay, what I have against this is that the character of Anderson Township, we got 50-foot trees back there, and they're beautiful, and it really cushions the noise from back there. And for them to tear down these 50-foot trees to put 6-foot trees back there, I mean, can you imagine what that looks like? I mean, you look at Grader's Ice Cream, you see the tree background. I mean, you got a corporate office that wants to come in there. It doesn't make any sense. You got these vacant lots where was a time that the market down there where Applebee's used to be, and Country Fresh. That's an area for a corporate office. He's got plenty of parking there, and he's next door to a police station. Your security is much better. He's got room to build a retail business. To change that and ruin the character of Anderson Township, I don't understand. You got the business district down here by Kroger's and everything. Why can't we keep that all together? I mean, and then to turn this into a retail, what's the domino effect, okay, with the people next door? Okay, it doesn't make any sense to me, but, that's just my opinion. And the parking in the back, why can't he's saying he wants to go further back to build this water retention. Why can't he build it underneath his parking lot and then cover it up like a gas station would when they put a tank in? The water retention will work the same way. And I don't understand his reasoning in moving further back, but like I said, I love Anderson Township. I've been there almost 41 years, my whole married life. It's a good place to raise a family, and I recommend it to people, but this is going to change the whole character of my home, and I'm not real happy with it. So thank you for listening to me.
Ken.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tapendra Sinha. I live on 8538 Sanmon Drive, and my house is right behind the Graters property. And I have certain concerns. I do agree with all my neighbors saying the same thing. One of the major concern is our backyard is the lowest point in the Sanmon Drive, so we get a lot of water, and we have been getting a tremendous amount of water from onward February and March due to the Graters expansion and the cutting of the trees for the soil testing for Buffalo Wings and Rings retail expansion and development. We consulted the Hamilton County Field Services, and they came and reviewed our backyard, and they said that the natural slope, the topography has changed because of the soil and the dirt that was brought by the runoff because of the cutting of the trees. So they suggested that we spend some money and have some French drains. 6 years back, we had a French drain created, and that cost us $2,500. So if you want to do again to alleviate the problem, which is not our fault right now, it's going to cost us more. The puddles that are being created will stay permanently. The detention basin is not going to fix it. It's just going to dump more water into it. And the puddles will be the breeding ground of mosquitoes in the coming summer. So other than the beautification, other than the destruction of the beautification of the Anderson Township, my major concern is health hazard, polluted runoffs, and water logging in my backyard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tao Huang, and I live in 8504 Salmon Drive. It's the one next to the A lot. Yeah, my neighbors already talk about all the situations we got and talk about. I just want to ask. I seen this is my a live camera on my backyard that's shooting to the woods.
There's nothing on there.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry.
So you see those trees?
Okay.
Actually, it's really good buffer for between the property line, between our house to the Beachmont Avenue. And just think about those 50 tall trees we cutting down and they're replaced by like 6, 7, or maybe. Yeah, it's just on the back of the house and look in just the building and it goes through. So I think that's why not just keeping all those existing buffer zones other than cutting them down and make some shorter buffers. So yeah, that's all I'd like to add to the thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Nader Masari. I'm the president and CEO of Buffalo Wings and Rings. I want to place a couple comments on the neighbors and the concerns that they have. Although I fully understand their concerns, but as you know, we have tried our best to accommodate all of the concerns that they may have. Initially, we had the building all the way in the back. We moved it forward just to accommodate their concerns. The water issue is a natural issue that is not within our control. All we can do is meet all of the Hamilton County, Anderson County regulations for water control and flow. Although in addition to that, we have decided to put an underground detention in addition to the retention that we have. The detention alone is probably about a $170,000 investment that will only help the water flow problem. It will not add any issues. It will help control the flow. As far as changing the zoning, I believe we are the best option for the area. It's an office building. It's only open 8 to 5, 5 days a week, no weekends. So no noise or lights to affect the residents. As far as training, it's only once every 3 months that we might have a training session. As far as the parking lot, we're already tight at 63 spaces for the number of square footage that we have. I believe last meeting there was just a misunderstanding between what Tom was saying and the planning committee understood. He was saying 107, but actually that's for the entire space. It's only 64 for the back building, which is barely enough. You take 12 spaces away, I don't know where we'll be parking. So the parking is definitely an issue for us. I'm a resident of the area. I live a few miles away. We have an office less than a mile away from this location. This will be occupied by the owners. It's not going to be used for retail or somebody else, so it will be well taken care of. As far as the height, we've agreed that we would limit it to 2 stories, although the zoning is approved for 3, so we're eliminating complete floor. But we just wanted some leniency till we get the design done to know exactly the height, because you are doing a restriction on us as far as shielding the equipment on the roof. We moved the equipment up on the top. We've accommodated on the lighting issues, parking issues, trees. Obviously, we would not cut any trees in the back if they're not going to impact the parking lot, so any concerns about the trees in the back will not be touched. And then we'll add the buffer. And if you look in the back, a lot of those trees are dead, so I'm not sure what noise and buffer that they're serving today. That's all I have. Thank you again.
Thank you. We can ask. Any other comments? Okay, with that, I will close the public portion of this. Andrew, D., questions that you guys have?
Dee had a question, and I'll kind of dovetail off of that. Now, currently, the larger trees are in the area that we're talking about is probably between the end of the parking lot as is proposed and the property line, is that correct?
Yeah, I can show you the aerial.
Okay, and so because of not only the detention basin, but also the 6-foot berm with the plantings on top of it, you can't bring in 6 feet of dirt on top of the existing trees. It's going to kill them. So that's probably why
I
most
feel
of
like
that-
the majority of the trees would be removed.
That's what I'm saying. The majority of existing trees will have to be removed, and that's
Yes.
why we're dealing with some of the residents concerned about, removing the taller trees. I'm not familiar with the area to know if, Paul, from your observation, are they all alive, dead, half dead? Do
Well,
we know?
I didn't take a picture after spring. These are the photos from the winter.
Well, everything looks dead in the wintertime. So
It does. There's a lot of honeysuckle. These trees directly behind the parking lot up in the photo,
Right.
those were not the tall mature trees I think that were referenced. Those seem to be more over to the west of the site. This is directly behind the site, so you can tell
These
some
are
of
the
it's already
houses-
been
these are
cleared
these
out.
people's houses that we're talking
Correct.
about, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, some of them are 2-story, some of them are single-story.
I would like,
So
No.
with that 6-foot
I appreciate
berm,
that.
where that edge of trees is, where we see the White House,
It'll be in this area here.
it'll be more in front of that?
No,
No, it's gonna be right on the
so if you
property.
look at, well, I don't know if you can, if you look at the topography plan that's in your packet,
Yeah.
it shows the grading for the mound. And yes, because of installing the detention basin and the grading that would be necessary,
Yeah, those trees are.
those
gonna
trees
die.
will be removed.
Right, so they're gonna have to clear back to the property line, build a berm up. I do have some concerns about the runoff, but from what I'm seeing here, from what the applicant is saying, that with the detention bases, there actually should be, I guess be the operative word, less of a runoff than is currently there, or at least during peak hours it's gonna be held, and then released at a controlled rate. So we
Currently, the site's not controlled at all.
Not controlled at all. So when
No.
it rains really heavy, all the water from here, since the topography flows backwards, and this is just raw land, all that water is just running back into their yards.
Correct. So now the site will be controlled. All water will be directed to the detention basins from this site. They're not catching water from
No, not
other
the neighboring
properties,
sites, I
correct.
understand that. But to speak to, I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't remember your name, so forgive me, but speak to her point.
Linda,
The
like you're concerned about the the water.
berm shooting water off to the side there, yeah, right. I mean, I'm looking at 87.8, 87.8, I'm looking at elevations here, 87.9, 88, I mean, it's not gonna shoot any more water onto the neighbor's site, it's actually gonna keep the water from going on the neighbor's site and shoot it to the detention pond, is that
Well,
correct?
and I didn't put this in the presentation just because it wouldn't show, but if you look on this plan here in your packet,
Right, that's what I'm looking at.
okay, so you'll see the storm drains at both of the corners of the property.
That's at the very edge to catch whatever might be.
Correct. And
just
that, it
flowing
will
off
still
of
be
the hill.
directed to the detention basin, yes.
So that's gonna grab whatever, and they're not there, nothing's there currently, so
Correct.
it's gonna,
So the only thing that is there now is there is a pipe right there, an outlet, or a storm drain was put in with the subdivision.
right.
So the release of this detention, one gentleman talked about like mosquitoes and water sitting there. How long does water sit there?
I can have the applicant come back up then to talk about that. So
I'm
it's
not-
it's
I don't
engineered to
understand
hold
how
it
that actually
slowly and
works.
release it at a slow rate.
And the garage and storage space, is there anything in zoning to keep that from being, I mean, can the applicant then put, a structure on top of that and use it for, I mean, one of the neighbors is concerned about, a deck out there for,
So they did propose during our zoning commission meeting that could possibly be used for like a second-story deck or an outdoor space for the office users. And yes, I mean, it is permitted
it's permitted.
in that type of zoning district. The building itself, so in our C residence district, houses can be a maximum of 35 feet tall, just to kind of put this in
Right,
perspective.
Right.
Um,
Which that was zoned
They are
for houses.
proposing to stay underneath 30
Right.
feet, or at least in that 30-foot area.
Right.
That's what this was meant to be. So if you look at this cross-section, that outdoor patio would be about right in this area here.
Dee?
So these are the,
So where's this storm drain?
that's what Mrs. McQuarrie was referencing, the pictures of the stormwater. That's in the backs of those homes. Those are the drains that are back there. That's where the water naturally flows.
And that fence that is in this picture,
I believe that is directly in Mrs. McQuarrie's backyard. Yeah, Mr. and Ms.
the
McQuarrie.
wooden pole fence, that's right on the property line.
Mhm.
So I'm looking at
And
the
that,
water
that
that's,
drain is this one.
got it, off the property.
Correct.
I got it. I'm with you. It's like one of these right here, that one, more than likely. So I'm seeing this water that is sheeting from the current property into this drain right now in this photograph, right?
Well, that's a natural drainage swell, yes,
It's a natural drain that's existing currently.
correct.
And based upon what I'm looking here on the blueprints and from the design, it looks like that, at least planning-wise, should be mitigated if not stopped. That's the intent.
Not completely, because that water is coming from all properties on Beachmont Avenue.
Right, but direct, I mean. if I'm
So
looking at the
that condition will be helped. It's not going to be solved.
No,
it
but I'm
will
seeing that
yes.
it's flowing from right under the fence, not all of it. I see some of it coming from the left, looking at the photograph. But at least this property should stop anything from coming
Yes.
through the fence line.
Yeah, because
directly to the
their
well.
property, the Wings and Rings property is being controlled. Everything is being directed into the detention basin
That's my point.
and will be released slowly and piped into the, I don't know if they've reached an agreement to actually physically pipe it onto their property, because an easement is required. If not, it will be released on the surface to get to that.
Should have better.
Should have better, right.
In theory.
This is not gonna change, but it's not gonna increase it.
And not gonna, so these will be what they are now.
And the side easement access that's shown on here, the graders has agreed, I guess, because it's new, and so that'll be tied into graders with a stop sign.
I
But-
don't think the graders has completely agreed yet. I don't know that an agreement has been reached with graders, no.
Not yet, but the intent is, and Montgomery Cyclery, there's nothing there, it'll just dead end waiting on development.
Correct. And so if graders, with any zone change or any type of a PUD, the zoning commission recommends that these cross-access places,
Right.
graders wasn't required because it wasn't a zone change, but
right.
we're hoping that an agreement can be made between these two property owners to make that happen, because we think it would be beneficial for both.
And does the applicant, since he's here, does the applicant, I asked this earlier, does the applicant have, I mean, you could say no, I mean, do you have an intent for the front retail space, do you have a proposed use? I see it's food related, do you? We do not have any intent. Nobody's in mind right now? No, okay. Okay. No, I know that, okay. I mean, that's the make or break. Okay. I don't have any more questions.
Dee, do you have anything else?
So the 12 parking spaces that you want put, is it 12 parking spaces?
Correct, it's these 12 right here.
So you're saying that with the amount of people using this, if you don't have those, what happens?
Well, two. You're two. Okay. Okay. Anything else? Any comments?
No, I mean, my comment is, I appreciate what they're trying to do, and I also appreciate the neighbors' concerns. I mean, no one, you know, you never want to, things change, especially near your backyard like this. I think that from what I'm seeing here, and I've done some development, I think that the berm with and although they're not mature trees now, I get that, but, you know, it's a 6 to 8 foot tree on top of a 6-foot berm is 12 feet when they'll grow. So, I mean, I do appreciate I almost wish the berm was a little bit higher, but I guess that isn't, you know, I'm not the designer. But I do appreciate what they're trying to do and with as little impact. And and I do appreciate actually the retention of the water, because, I'm always concerned when I hear of water flow from properties. We just had that other one down on Cluck we discussed as well, that eroding the creek. So I'm pleased that we're addressing stormwater runoff and retaining it and releasing it at a controlled rate rather than having it sheet off during heavy rains. So I do see both sides of this issue, and it's tough. But I do appreciate what has been proposed, and looks like we're trying to accommodate some of the concerns, if not many of them. I know not all of them. I get it. I understand, please. But that's my opinion. That's my comment.
Paul, was there a number of trees that they have to put back in, given, or is it just?
No, the staff and the zoning commission was just recommending a solid buffer of trees.
So how is that defined? Is there a definition of solid buffer?
There's not a definition, no. Originally, the Regional Planning Commission recommended a fence, but we thought a landscaping buffer would be more appropriate. So you have your 6 feet of mound, it's taller than me, I'm 5'8", and then you have the 8-foot evergreens. The evergreens will need to be staggered when they're put in at 8 feet. They have to be staggered. And then we also were recommending deciduous trees in addition to that to help create more of a natural wooded area like it is there now. So we didn't think it was appropriate just to have a single line of evergreen trees.
Right.
There's always the chance that they might get a disease and all of them die. So we're recommending a diverse group of evergreen trees, and then also mixed in with that would be the deciduous trees to help create more of that natural wooded area.
I mean, I've driven down Sunmont. I mean, you can see right through the house, the yards, into Beachmont Avenue. I mean, today you can see there's a clear view right now. And yes, that fills in when obviously the vegetation comes back up. But you did, I mean, a lot of it is honeysuckle and some other stuff. So a couple of comments. One, on there's a couple issues that were raised kind of consistently. That's obviously the water and the green space. I would say on the water front, I mean, we've addressed this several times before. They're going to do more to this site than was there before. We know there's water issues based on what the neighbors have said, but in reality, this is a better solution for any water problems than what there exists today. We don't control the water and what is zoned for, I mean, or who places the restrictions and what you have to do for detention. All I know is that it will be better because of the things that they're going to spend the money on. The height, the building height, 2 stories, I think you could probably achieve it under 30 feet, I would hope. So, I mean, 2 stories with screening, 30 feet, to me seems like a reasonable request. So finally, the parking. Normal office building parking in this market is 4 per 1,000. That's 80 spots on that for a 20,000 square foot building. So I understand that it probably is a little light. But the 12 spots in the back, to Nader, to your point, I mean, that kind of makes the deal. But it also is, I think, the biggest source of contention with the people that live right behind this development. So, Paul, I think, I mean, I'm inclined to approve this, but I think there needs to be some definition of what's going in back there, and it has to be evergreen. It has to be a solid screen of trees. And if that means you need to spend more money to get those 12 parking spots and put in more trees than what is shown, then that's what you need to do. So I don't know how I put that condition on such an approval, but to me, that seems like the water is, I mean, that is going to be taken care of, but the screening is something I think that I'm hoping, and I believe as good neighbors, you guys would agree to do more than what is shown on this plan. So how I would propose that as a resolution, I guess I'm looking for your advice.
There is some condition in here, we talk about 8 foot, 2.5, so there are some specifications to the trees.
Okay.
While we're having to comply with anything.
Well, I'd like you to over-comply. Because what I'm saying is that there is a value to those 12 parking spots. And if you're a developer, you know a parking spot is $20,000 a spot. So, I mean, there has to be a value to that parking, which you've explained that there is. And I do agree that you probably are a little light on parking. But because there's such a value for those 12 spots, and because you are gonna be backing up right to these neighbors. I think you need to overdo it on the trees back there. So however we can,
So, well, the zoning commission recommended condition number 6, that in lieu of a privacy fence, a solid screen consisting of diverse evergreen and deciduous trees. So that's what we just discussed. Then condition number 11, the zoning commission wanted to upsize the trees, so 8-foot evergreens, 2.5 caliper shade trees, and 3-gallon shrubs. So those were the 2 conditions that speak to that. If you wanted to add language
Well, I
even
think-
more to that, I don't,
Yeah, so that's on the back side toward the sunlight.
correct.
Right.
So what's on the other side of the detention pond along those 12 parking
So
spaces?
those were our minimum,
Those are
our
little-
perimeter parking requirements, which is 1 tree every 30 feet and then 1 shrub every 10 feet. So that's what
so to
they're
Dee's point,
proposing.
maybe that's where,
Yeah, I mean, why
another
can't you have
screening
more
at the
trees
edge of the lot.
along those 12 parking spots?
Okay.
okay.
And
Any-
that detention basin is not designed to hold water all the time, is that correct?
That's correct.
So during a heavy rain, obviously it would flood, hold the water, then the water would be released slowly to address any concerns the neighbors might have for standing water. They don't want a pond back there, and I appreciate that, given mosquitoes and everything else. But, basically it's gonna be a dry, during the summer months, the design intent is for that to be dry. Is that not correct? Developer? The detention pond is not to hold water all the time, is that correct?
Does not hold water all the time. The underground, retention will hold most of the water that we release in that pond as, cleansing, agent cleansing water that actually goes into the system. The question involved was more trees along the 12 spaces there. I think we can limit, do that. And we got hedge along there. We gotta do a, 3-gallon shrub on it to get it started. We could definitely run that along and actually run it up the side just a little bit there in the parking if that's what accommodates.
Well, shrubs are one thing, trees are another, and I think that's where I'm going with this. We want something that's tall. At the end of the parking lot, where now you're showing 3 trees, I mean, to the extent that it makes sense to plant them, you don't want them growing into each other. But whether it's at the end of that parking lot, Paul, or whether it's on the berm and part of the screening, if the plan was to, I don't even know what the dollar amount is, but if the plan is they needed to spend 10 grand, then they need to spend 20. Whatever it is, you need to bulk up the screening, is what I'm saying. So I'm inclined to approve this, and grant the removal of the 27 feet and change it to a 2-story building with hidden mechanicals, and grant the 12 parking spaces contingent upon additional robust, hardy, out-of-control screening. Whatever I need to put on that is a
Okay.
contingent.
Okay.
Paul, won't
Yes.
there be a final landscape plan
Yes,
with
so-
the final development?
A final
plan?
development plan will be submitted to the zoning commission.
Okay.
And that will be hopefully the residents' reassurance, that all these conditions are being met.
Okay, all right, good. So with that, you guys have any other,
I have no other comments.
And then
Okay.
there are variances being requested as well.
so the variances are 14 and 15?
The variances are for a side yard setback for the building, and then a variance for the 6-foot wide streetscape buffer along the roadway.
Okay. So I would move to approve and adopt a zone change from E-retail, E-PUD planned unit development, C-residence, C-PUD planned unit development to EE planned business district for 8501 Beachmont Avenue, granting the variances for a 10-foot variance side
Side yard setback.
yard setback and a 6-foot sidewalk,
6-foot streetscape buffer.
streetscape buffer.
Yes.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to presentations and recognitions. Unfortunately, we're going to do a resolution anyways proclaiming May as Mental Health Month, but unfortunately our speaker had to leave, so he'll be back to probably next month. So, but let's go ahead and do the proclamation anyway, as soon as I find it.
It's right here. Do we
Go
read
ahead,
the whole
Dee.
thing?
I move To adopt a resolution proclaiming, designating May 2019 as Mental Health Awareness Month in Anderson Township.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes, this is an important topic, more so in our township than ever it has been before.
Yes.
And I can tell you that this board, along with the school board, the park board, the chamber, are all working together to bring not only awareness, but try and make some impact as it relates to this subject. And Dee is serving on a committee that is working on that as we speak, so.
Speaking of that, our speaker series, our next part of the series is right here in our theater on June 13th at 6:30 p.m. And it's on addiction in the brain. So, and the public's invited, it's free, so hope people can come to that.
Thank you. We also have another proclamation for
I'll let
May
Dee do
is
this one. She loves bikes.
Bike Month.
I move to adopt a resolution designating or proclaiming May 2019 as Bike Month in Anderson Township.
Give you one proclamation to read.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
You want to sit?
All right.
Sure.
Thank you. Public forum, this is the time when individuals can address the board if they would like.
They're out slashing our tires.
Dad?
Come on, say something. Please. Get up here. Say
Okay.
something.
If none, then we'll move into trustee comments. My only comment is a reminder that May 27th is Memorial Day, and we will be holding our annual Memorial Day
Bell ringing.
a bell ringing event right out here on the plaza at 11 a.m. Right? 11.
7.
It actually, we ask that people sign up by 11:45 if they wish to have the name of a loved one read during the ceremony.
11:45 or 10:45?
11:45, and the ceremony starts at noon.
Oh, okay. So hopefully, that is one of the most important things we do all year. Hopefully, we get a good crowd.
It's nice.
Dee, Andrew, Ken, anything?
Yes, financial reports are showing that.
Do you guys want to say
so
anything
I was
before?
like-
Oh,
I'm sorry?
Comments. We're still on comments.
I don't know why I asked you, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, I mean, he might have something to say.
He might, and he will. No, tonight, these hearings are important, and, try to balance township considerations as a whole with residents' concerns, and I think, you see how difficult that is. I hope everyone understands that, no one ever wants to have something built in their proverbial backyard, and here's one that it is, but I think the township staff did a good job, and I think we have the utmost confidence that they'll have the residents' concerns as far as privacy and screening and drainage and everything else. So this is tough stuff, and it's good to do, and it grows the township. I think that, what was the dollar amount he said? $4 million, I believe, Paul? So, there's another notch in our development belt. Not that that's the end-all, be-all, but it's raw land not doing anything right now, and I'm excited to see more development coming to Beachmont Avenue.
Dee? Anything?
I'm good.
Now?
Thank you.
Now,
Ken?
now
you're
you can speak.
It's your turn.
Yeah, the financial reports at the end of April were a little distorted because we have, on the appropriation expense side, in May, $6 or $7 million of payments that will be processed in May. So the end of April looks a lot better expenditure-wise than it really is going to be at the end of May. So it looks like it's at less than 25%, and at the end of May, it's going to be around 30 to 32%, so which is where it should be. And we're also looking at the real estate collections is going to start in a couple weeks for the real estate taxes, and that's going to really pile on the revenues for a couple more months. So, but at the end of April, the revenues are slightly over what we had estimated, simply because we had the first half collection already collected, and now we're gonna go into the second half. And that'll slow down toward the end of the year when the payments stop coming in. There was kind of a little difference in the TIF payment to the school district was less than it was last year, by $300,000, something like that. And I believe that's because the change in the tax laws, where you can't deduct most people cannot deduct their real estate taxes, and they were paying full-year payments over probably the last 10 or 20 years. They probably didn't make full-year payments this year, which is why I think that the first-year collections, or first-half collections, were down from last year. You'll see that catch up in the second half of this year. So,
Okay.
that's the financial reports. No appropriation changes, thank God. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Law Director, Margaret, anything?
I have no report.
Thank you. Paul, anything else for planning and zoning? Lieutenant McElroy? Eric, Public Works. Couple things?
Eric.
First off, it's just an announcement, but May 19th through the 25th is National Public Works Week. National Public Works Week is aimed at recognizing the contributions of all public works employees. Our employees do an outstanding job year-round, no matter what. I think they really shine in the wintertime when it's snow removal and taking care of everything. But they just do a great job. But May 19th through the 25th is National Public Works Week. Next up, for a number of years, the Hamilton County Adult Probation Department has provided litter pickup services to the township, as well as landscaping mowing of 3 of our large cemeteries, and they've also completed other assignments that they've been asked to do from the township. Staff is recommending continuing this contractual relationship at an annual cost of $25,000 a year, beginning July 1st of 2019 and running through June 30th of 2022. My motion appears before you for your consideration.
I move to authorize the Township Administrator to execute a contract with Hamilton County Board of County Commissioners on behalf of the Hamilton County Adult Probation Department in substantially the form before the board to provide for cemetery maintenance services from July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2022 at a cost not to exceed $25,000 per year.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
What are the cemeteries you know on top of your head?
The
They're
big
in
cemetery down off of Sutton,
I'll read it.
the
Rose.
Asbury Cemetery,
Okay.
and
Rose something.
Rose Hill up off of 32 at the
I
top
see
of the
it.
hill,
I see it.
and Bridges.
We used to have, okay, forget it. I'll see you later about that.
All right, thank you. Next up, as the board is aware, our current road maintenance plan requires us to utilize a microsurface overlay to help stretch our paving funds. I am recommending that we apply a microsurface overlay to a select group of township roads for a 2019 program. The cost of microsurfacing overlay is approximately 60% the cost of traditional grinding and paving. This year, the state bid for the overlay, for grinding overlay, is $376 per ton. Strasser Construction Incorporated has agreed to perform this work below state bid pricing. They will also perform crack sealing, patching, prior to laying of the microservice, line striping, whatever else needs to be done after the material goes down. So before you tonight is a motion to,
I move to authorize the Township Administrator to enter into a contract with Strasser Construction, Inc., utilizing state bid pricing in the amount of $227,134.90 plus a 10% contingency of $22,713.49, resulting in a total amount not to exceed $249,848.39.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
that's all I have,
I'd
thank
like to
you.
remind the residents that microsurface overlay really does make our roads last a lot longer, and
It
it is
does.
amazing stuff.
It does, it's a 10 to 12
Sometimes
year,
it's not pretty.
but
It's
it
not all
wears wears like
shiny and
iron.
black like a new
It wears great.
roadway is, but it wears like iron, and it is amazing. It's an amazing product that really does stretch our road dollars as far as we possibly can.
It does. Thank you.
Eric, I'd like to thank you for trying to get the culvert fixed on Woodruff. It was a beautiful job that the county did as of, what, last week?
Yeah, I
And then
stopped and
as
looked at
of
that this
yesterday, somebody
afternoon.
ran into
Yeah,
the culvert with a pickup truck or a dump truck or something
yeah,
and
delivery truck.
ruined it.
We'll get it fixed again.
Okay.
Take care of it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Chief Martin, anything? Thank you. Vicky?
Yes, Mr. Severs has items A and C.
Good evening. Following up on Mr. Lugenbuehl's comments regarding the pavement preservation program, there's a project that has been in our Anderson Trails program or plan now for nearly a decade, and we've been advancing that forward in line with other projects. Project was out for bid for Markley Road. This is from James Hill down to Woodcroft, and there were 4 bids that were received earlier this month. There is a motion before you to allow for the staff to proceed with contract with Pruce Construction Company, and we'd appreciate your consideration in allowing that project to advance.
I move that this board hereby accepts the bid of $359,352.50 from Pruce Construction Company, deemed to be the most responsive and responsible bidder for the Markley Road Sidewalk Project, in accordance with bid plans and specifications, together with a 10% contingency, for a maximum appropriation of $395,287.75 in 1994 TIF and road levy funds. Further, this board hereby authorizes and directs the township administrator to give timely notice of award to the contractor and, after consultation with the law director, to enter into contract with Pruce Construction Company in accordance with their bid for the Markley Road Sidewalk Project.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
When will this start?
Thank you. Well, we'll look to schedule pre-construction once we get the contract signed, and our hope is later this summer that'll be underway and completed by the end of the year. So.
Good.
You're
Thank you.
happy about that?
Yes, very. I walk there. It's very dangerous. Good.
I'm going
I
to
do
flip
too.
over to.
I walk there too,
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, me.
You've seen me walk.
I'm going to flip over to item C now. We have several items related to property coming out of executive session. The first of which entails a proposed property donation from James and Jean Glass. This is property on Lawyer Road between Ravens Run and Royal Woods. It's property that the township's been eyeing for green space for quite some time, over a decade now, since the trail was built along Lawyer, connecting that subdivision to the 5 Mile Trail back in 2009. The Glasses have agreed in principle, and we'd like to proceed. This would be a just over 3-acre donation to the green space program and a very visible property along Lawyer Road, so we certainly appreciate their consideration. There's a resolution that Law Director has put together. If there's any questions, happy to answer those.
I move to adopt a resolution authorizing property transfer agreement with James G. Glass and Jean F. Glass and accepting donation of real property and interest therein to the township by James G. Glass and Jean F. Glass pursuant to the authority of Section 50510 of the revised code.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Steve,
What's
what does
that take
take?
our?
You go ahead. No, you go
No,
ahead.
you do it.
No, you do it.
What's that take our total to, Steve?
What's funny you should ask. That would be just over 700 acres, we believe. If-
700 acres.
Of just green space.
Just green.
Just green space.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So.
It's a lot of green space.
It's a lot of green.
Keeping it green.
The second item we have, speaking of open space, this is a proposal for donation of property on Bernie Road. This is on the east side of Bernie, just north of I-275. The property owner, Mr. Vicina, has suggested the donation of these properties. The acreage is yet to be defined, but it would be just over, it looks like approximately 2 acres, and it's contiguous with greenbelt land the township currently owns in that area. So we are suggesting that we proceed, and then we'll determine the future use, whether it's green belt or green space from that point. But this resolution that Margaret has prepared will allow us to proceed with that transaction.
I move to adopt a resolution authorizing property transfer agreement with Chris Vezina and accepting donation of real property and interest therein to the township by Chris Vezina pursuant to the authority of Section 505.10 of the revised code.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you. We'll keep
Great. That's good
posted on
stuff.
both of those as they proceed. The third is actually, and while we love for property to be donated, sometimes we have to purchase property if we're interested. And that's what the proposal entails here. There's 2 parcels that the township is seeking to acquire, and there's a resolution that's been prepared by Margaret for your consideration that would allow us to proceed with an offer on those.
I move to adopt a resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 parcels of real property in the township pursuant to section 511.11 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
The next item we have for the board's consideration would be appointments to the Modal Coordinating Committee of the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Regional Council of Governments. The ICC provides technical assistance to the regional council, to their executive director and board, related to land use, transportation, air quality, planning, those sorts of things. Mr. Severs has served as a representative of the township for quite some time. Mr. Caruso, who recently retired, was his alternate. So there is a motion before the board that would reappoint Mr. Severs and appoint Mr. Drury as the alternate.
I move to appoint Steve Severs as Anderson Township's representative on the Intermodal Coordinating Committee of the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Regional Council of Governments, and Paul Drury as alternate, both to be installed by the OKI president.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you. The item, and I appreciate the board allowing me to add this late item, we have an agreement with Cincinnati Area Senior Services to provide congregate meals, home-delivered meals, and transportation services to our seniors at the Anderson Senior Center. That contract expires the end of June, and I just recently received a return reply from Cass indicating they are interested in renewing that agreement for another year at the same rate of $45,000 per year. So there is a resolution before you and the memorandum of understanding.
I move to adopt a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with Cincinnati Area Senior Services.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you. And tagging on to what Mr. Luganbuehl said about it being Public Works Awareness Week, I just want to remind folks, we hear a lot about firefighters being in danger. We hear a lot about police officers being in danger, but we have road crews. The state has road crews. The county has road crews. When you're out there on 275 and it says slow down to 55, please slow down to 55. When you're on our roads and you see signs up that men and women are working on the side of the road, please slow down, because there are a lot of road workers who are killed every year. We see it with truck drivers, garbage truck drivers, and everyone who are out there operating in our rights of way. So please be cognizant and share the road with those folks.
Well said.
Thank you. That's all we have this evening.
That'll do it for tonight. Our next meeting is June 20th, 6 o'clock in this room. With that, move to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes. Thanks, everyone.